thanks for checking out Live and Lead. I want to talk today about the subject of familiarity. You know, a few years ago, I was visiting a small Argentinian town in the foothills of the Andes Mountains, and I was awestruck by the beauty of those mountains. From every vantage point in town, all you could see were the snow-capped peaks of the Andes Mountains. I was in a local shop, and curiously, I asked the local shop owner, do you ever tire of seeing the beauty of these mountains? His reply was very quick, but it caught me off guard. He said, I hardly ever notice them anymore. You know, I thought to myself, how could somebody be surrounded by such beauty, by such splendor, by such awe, and fail to acknowledge that beauty, that splendor, and that awe? You know, I guess if you're surrounded by them every day, they don't really mean that much to you anymore. You know, I'm reminded of that story as it relates to the 13th chapter of Mark's Gospel, when one day Jesus made his way back to his hometown, a place where he grew up, a place where he spent 30 years of his life, and now he's in his public ministry and he goes back home. And you know, his reception there is unlike the reception that he received in other towns and villages and cities. In fact, Matthew tells us that his reception among his own people was less than enthusiastic. You know, the familiar Jesus, the Jesus they all knew, came back. And Matthew tells us at the end of the 13th chapter in verse 58, some of the most tragic words we read in all of the Bible. And Matthew says that he did not do many mighty works there, miracles there, because of his unbelief. Now think about that for a moment, the irony of that. The very same Jesus who healed the sick and raised the dead and healed lepers and gave sight to the blind, did these miracles in all kinds of villages and cities, and yet he goes back to the place where he grew up, where the people would be familiar with him, and he didn't do many mighty works there. There's a reason for this, and it's a danger we all face, and it highlights something that you and I can't miss. You know, people who study human relationship psychology talk about something in our relationships that can be very subtle, but it can be a relationship killer. And it's called visual lethargy. It goes something like this. The more that we see something, that we tend to really see it. In other words, the things that used to move us, inspire us, motivate us, excite us, encourage us, become commonplace in our lives, and we don't see those things in the way that we used to see them. We quit, in other words, seeing the beauty of things. We quit being moved by them and thankful for them. You know, the beauty of the mountains that used to catch our attention and take our breath away, they fade into obscurity, into the landscape. The majestic oak tree we used to see on our way to work might as well not even exist. But you know, it also happens to relationships around us. The person to whom you are married, the one who captured your heart, they become just another person who stands in your way or a person you have to deal with. Friendships become that way. Co-workers become that way. We see them, but we don't see them like we used to see them. We have to work hard not to allow people and things, and most of all, the God who towers over our lives, to become too familiar to us, that we fail to see Him or we fail to see those people. I want to encourage you to take a moment today to look at the beauty all around you and express your gratitude for those things and for those people. But most of all, make up your mind never to allow the God who towers over your life to fade into obscurity. Never lose your awe and splendor of Him and His grace and His mercy in your life. David in Psalm 27 verse 4 gives us this incredible word of encouragement I want to leave you with today. And here's what David says, "One thing I have asked of the Lord, and one thing that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life." And then he says this, "that I may gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and inquire in His holy temple." David said, may I never forget to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord. Never allow Him to become familiar to you. The people of Nazareth had the same opportunity that the people in all of the towns and villages that Jesus visited also had. Jesus came there and He wanted to do a great work, but He wasn't able to because the very people who knew Him best failed to acknowledge who He was. Don't allow that to happen to you. May you and I be like David in Psalm chapter 27 and verse 4. May we never tire upon gazing upon the beauty of the Lord. May He and all of the people and things in our lives never become familiar to us, that we fail to acknowledge those things that it maybe at one time captured and moved our hearts.